Welcome everyone to the Women in Standards webinar on how to navigate change in times of uncertainty. And today I welcome Mary Lou Maddaugh. Mary Lou has firsthand experience with major life changes, and her book, Navigating 5 Life Changes, an Odyssey of Resiliency and Hope, is about her journey through these changes in a 5-year period. Written in the style of an odyssey of being gone for an extended period, her book focuses on universal themes of life transitions, offering insights on navigating through personal growth and change. From starting over after each setback to reinventing herself after a corporate downsizing, Mary Lou shares her experience and encourages her readers to listen to their inner wisdom to guide them in the right direction. Mary Lou, I turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen. Appreciate that introduction. And I also want to say thank you to Karen Rezick for inviting me to speak to the group today. Karen and I worked together at Bureau Veritas, and we were both senior managers enjoying a very long and exciting career until some changes hit, and corporate downsizing, change in management, change in culture and philosophy. So I think we both have experience in reinventing ourselves and navigating a change of that magnitude. And all of us now, we're dealing with major life changes with the pandemic and trying to figure out ways of doing things with these changes happening and adapting our schedules, working from home, working remotely, managing children and homeschooling and all kinds of changes. So I think it's a great opportunity today to talk about how we personally navigate change. And I hope to share some insights with you and some tools that may help you as you navigate the changes, whether you're making those changes yourself or like the pandemic, changes can sometimes be forced upon us. And it's how we manage those that I think will impact the quality of the decisions we make. So I thought what I would do is perhaps just read a very brief introduction from my book, just to give some context around the changes that I've had to navigate and how I've come up with my own process for navigating changes. Excuse me. So I'll just jump right in here. What is a major life change? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, a major life change has an effect strong enough to change someone's life. I have experienced 5 major life changes in a 5-year period, and all changed my life in ways I could not have imagined. First was the sudden death of my husband. Second, the selling of our home. Third, a corporate downsizing. Fourth, relocating to a new state. And fifth, being diagnosed with a major life illness, cancer. These events catapulted me on a personal odyssey through love, loss, and renewal over a 5-year period, and culminated in finding my own way and creating a new life for myself in a new place. I set out on my odyssey, imagining a different life for myself. I didn't know how I was going to do this, but I did have a vision in mind and set down my goals for the next 6 months because I thought this was a time frame I could manage. This is how I have lived and survived, by setting small goals for myself for a short term. I was able to reach each milestone, look ahead a short distance, and keep on going. When I felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of the journey, I stopped myself and looked back at how far I had traveled. Throughout all the changes I was navigating, I kept my compass set for my own true north, followed my own inner guidance, and took that leap of faith. And I just want to read one more thing. I have some poems interjected in my book here, and this one in particular I think is relevant to our discussion today. It's called The Inner Voice. Trust your instincts. They are your intuitive guide on your life's journey. They will help you decide which path to take and assist you in navigating in the direction you are meant to go. Enjoy your journey. Be aware of synchronicity, the people you meet, those that are fleeting and those where there is a strong connection. They are your guides on earth and have come into your life to help you achieve your greatness. Believe in yourself. Treat everyone with respect. Honor the greatness in you and nurture its growth. So next slide, if you don't mind, Karen. Um, this is the most common question people ask me after reading my book or hearing about my book is, how did you navigate all those changes? And throughout the changes I was experiencing, I developed my own, I would say it's called a 5-step process for change. And those of you that deal with process and certifications and standards and organization and are very process oriented, I think even my background working at Bureau Veritas helped me sort of formulate this process and the steps to take me from point A to point B and point C and beyond. So I'm going to break those down for you today, to walk through them just to help see if they can help you in navigating some of the changes that you're dealing with. So let's jump to the next slide. Which direction do you want to go? I think it would be really helpful now if we could all think about a change that we're dealing with, maybe a change with the pandemic, or a change we would like to make in our life. And it doesn't have to be a complete overhaul of everything right now. It could be something as simple as I want to exercise more. I want to have a better work-life balance. I want more time on my schedule to have some thinking time for myself. Maybe you're in the middle of thinking about a career pivot. Maybe the job you have been doing is starting to not feel like it's a good fit for you. Or if you're working on some professional development, maybe there's a language you want to take like Spanish or French or some other type of language, or another type of another area where you want to expand your professionalism to really help you go further in your career. So whatever change you're thinking of, I'd like to just take a few minutes now and just pause and maybe give some thought and hone in on a change that you would like to make, because I think it would be helpful as we go through the process to sort of apply that change you're working on through the 5-step process. So I'm going to just pause for a few minutes, let everybody think about something they'd like to work on.
Mary Lou, we've got some great posts to the chat so far.
Oh, good. All right. Well, let's go to the next slide. Just hit this again, I think. There we go. So back one. There we go. Where do I begin? How can I gain clarity about my next steps? How do I overcome fear of making a mistake? What if it doesn't work out? So these are some of the questions I think we're going to explore as we go through this process that I developed. So we can go on. Oh, and I would just say, if anyone wants to share a change they're working on, feel free to send that to Karen. And there's no pressure. This is the time we've set aside for you, for ourselves. So it should just be a very relaxing time, and time just do some thinking about some changes. So.
Excellent. Mary Lou, one share for you is I am currently learning Spanish, and my kids are as well. And that is difficult because I don't want to say it wrong. And so I have to force myself to say things out loud, knowing that they might not be 100% correct.
Well, that's great, because if your children are learning it too, then you can sort of practice with each other, right? Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So create your vision for change. This is the first step in the process. So we're thinking about this change we want to make, and we want to kind of think about, like, let's say, for example, one of the things I'm creating for myself is I want to make sure I exercise frequently and try to walk every single day. So by exercising and wanting to do some walking every day, I'm thinking that this is going to make me feel really good and it's going to make me feel happy. And I know for myself, walking is also a good stress reducer. So I know it's going to help me manage my stress too. So my vision is that not only do I want to start exercising, but how is that going to make me feel? Um, what is sort of like the change? What's sort of a broader perspective for that change? Because if we just say we want to exercise, that's good too. But I think we need to think about like how creating that vision for ourselves. By exercising, we want to feel better and feel stronger, feel more empowered. So I think it's really important to think about that. Like for yourself, Karen, thinking about the vision. Maybe you're going to end up having a little conversation at the dinner table with your children with a few words of Spanish. And so maybe that's your vision, is to be able to have your children learn at the same time you're learning. So it just kind of is like creating a broader perspective. And I think creating a vision for yourself is really, really an important step. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about that. All right, well, let's go on to the next slide. This is a key piece to the changes we want to make, to creating a vision for yourself, is write it down. So just take a few minutes now to grab a piece of paper, maybe write down the change you want to make. Maybe it's something you're doing more cooking at home now with the pandemic and you want to create healthier meals for yourself and your family. So maybe creating a healthy meal is going to be important. Or maybe it's, again, creating that work-life balance. What is that going to entail for you? So it's important to write it down. And we'll work through how we clarify that a little bit as we go further. And the other thing to do is create a visual using images, words, pictures of the change you want to make. I'm big on doing vision boards and creating a visual for myself. And so, as a matter of fact, in my pantry right behind me here, I have my vision board, and the very first thing that pops out at me when I open that every morning to get my cereal is my vision board with a statement saying, a less stressful life. I want to create a less stressful life for myself. So that is like top of mind for me then in the morning when I look at that. And so it reminds me when I'm making commitments to do certain things, is this going to add more stress to my life, or is this going to be helpful for me? So creating a visual is good. If you're not a visual person, you could use words. Maybe you want to use Post-it notes and put those around your desk area. Or maybe take a legal pad and just write down a statement about your vision and the change you want to make for yourself. Or if you want to just put something electronically in your notes, in your iPhone, of the change that you want to make. So I think it's important to really think about it and write down the change that you want to work on. And now we can maybe move on to the next slide. If there's any questions in between, let me know. We will have some time at the end for questions and answers, that's for sure. So chart your course, I call this number 3, and it's being in action. And we can all relate to maybe having an idea of a change we want to make someday, or whether it's, in my case, maybe exercising every day, in Karen's case, maybe taking the Spanish class, but you have to be in action. So by being in action, you signed up for the class, Karen, so you're taking that. For myself, what I did is put it on my iPhone, schedule it right in, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, walk, 8:30 in the morning. I'm a morning person. I like to walk in the morning. So I put that right on my schedule. So we start to create this action for ourselves that are going to be bringing us closer to the vision that we want to have, whatever change that we are making. Um, One of the things that I had to do as well is I was doing a lot of, my book was published at the end of last year, and I was doing a lot of in-person readings and conversations around how we're navigating change. And on Friday, March 13th, I was doing a book reading, and there were about 15 people in attendance. And it was at a public venue here. And the event coordinator at the end came in and said, "This is the last event we're having. The governor just declared that all public venues will be closed down due to the pandemic." So, that was a big shift for all of us, of course. And then for myself too, it was like, well, I can't do in-person readings. So now what am I going to do? And so I thought, well, I've been wanting to do some webinars or some workshops around managing change. So what did I have to do? I had to learn Zoom, like all of us have had to learn Zoom. So I started to participate as a co-facilitator in some other Zoom meetings, and just learn how to use this type of vehicle, which of course we're all adjusting to, but it's a little bit different than being in person, that's for sure. So that's called being in action. We have to learn something or take a step to move us in that direction. Okay, so maybe we'll move on to the next slide.
A quick question for you, Mary Lou, on this topic. What if the action is difficult? And so, your phone goes off, you have to do it, but you're like, oh, I'm so busy, and that's going to take a lot of effort. Is there something we can do to kind of motivate ourselves?
Well, I would say that in a case like that, working with clients who are managing change or in career transition, we tend to create like timetables for ourselves. So you might not get to that today, but the important thing is maybe take that from on your schedule and move it to another day. Just don't completely disregard it. So maybe, you don't get to exercise today if it's raining out, so I can't really go today, but I see tomorrow's gonna be a nice day, so I'm gonna move that onto my schedule for tomorrow. But it's really starting to make yourself a priority, because this is important to you. So you've got to carve that time out for yourself. And that's why I say here to also create one goal for yourself within the next 30 days. And if it turns out within those 30 days you haven't been able to do it, well, then move that goal for 2 weeks out, or maybe another 30 days. But always have something that you're working towards in order to start to make the changes you want to make. So does that help?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So cultivate success. And this is very important, I think, for taking the vision of a change you want to make, having some kind of visual for yourself, and then looking at it on a daily basis. Whether just because this becomes top of mind for you. Like I was giving the example of my vision board in my pantry behind me. When I look at that, that just jumps out at me, creating a less stressful life. I mean, there's other things on my vision board that I'm working on in terms of like exercising and creating healthy meals for myself. But I see it every day. And this, I think, is where how changes start to take place for ourselves, because we have a lot on our plates, especially right now. We're being pulled in a lot of different directions. It's difficult to manage change in this time of uncertainty where we don't even know what's going to happen in the next 30 or 60 days in terms of are our kids going to go back to school, or is there going to be a spike, or what's going to change for our work schedule. So I think by keeping focused on small changes that you want to make that are achievable. I think in my experience, I feel we're sort of taking back our personal power, because there's a lot of things that are happening around us in this whole environment that we're living in right now that we don't have any control over. So by focusing us on a small change that you can make that's going to make you feel good about yourself, it really does put you back in control. I call it taking back your personal power. So the other thing I want to mention here is for your vision, maybe it can even be a statement in your notes on your iPhone. It can be a visual that you be in your closet, or it can be in your pantry or behind a cupboard door. Just make it whatever size you feel is good for you. Or it can be a statement that you read in the morning with your morning coffee. I mean, I have, other tools that I've used successfully would be a vision statement, just writing down, and you can read it very quickly while you're having your coffee, just to, again, help center you. And the other thing is that this is your vision, and this is something for you, and you don't necessarily have to share that with others unless you want to, because this is something that you're working on for yourself. So I think to me, this is another key piece in the process to be able to keep having this change you want to make top of mind. So, any questions on that? All right, well, we can move on to the next slide. So choose your future. And we all know that things are always going to be changed, because change is a constant in our life. And your vision is fluid, and it will change as you are changing. And your vision, it's important to reassess it on a regular basis. Be mindful of what you're committing yourself to. If something isn't working out, then don't worry, just adjust it. Like we were talking about, when things come up and we have to move things on our schedule, well, that's okay, because you're in control of that time frame and what you want to do. Or maybe you thought you wanted to, in my case, walk 3 times a week. Well, now I'm finding that I really like walking every day, and I'm noticing I feel better. My pants are a little looser. On days when I don't walk, I notice a difference. So it's just kind of readjusting your vision of the change you want to make, depending on what is going on in your life at this point in time. And I think that is another key piece. And I would have to say, like, I feel this 5-step process is really foundational. It can be used for very small changes, exercising, a change in our diet, wanting to have a better work-life balance, or it can be used for larger changes you want to make, and maybe you're not thinking about those today, but once we get through this pandemic, it just feels like people are really reevaluating what they want to be doing, what their core values are the things that they're doing aligned with where they want to be. And again, right now, I think it's so important to just set small, achievable goals for yourself, because you don't need pressure on you right now. So even if your change is to just make some time for yourself, maybe a half an hour a day, you can start to put that on your calendar and start to build that into your schedule as well. So it just helps to kind of have a process in place for how we want to manage these changes. And I just want to take a few minutes before we open it up to questions, just to read, not that I'm going to bore you with my whole book, but just to read one or two more paragraphs that I think sort of help tie this all together. So my book, I start out with quoting another author, and then I go into my own narrative. So this one is about starting over and finding my way. And this is a quote from Rumor Godden, A House with Four Rooms. There is an Indian proverb that says that everyone is a house with 4 rooms, a physical, a mental, an emotional, and a spiritual. Most of us tend to live in one room most of the time, but unless we go into every room every day, even if only to keep it aired, we are not a complete person. How do you go about finding your way again after suffering a great loss? This is the question I began to give serious thought to, and in doing so, I developed my own process for how to manage change. I needed some type of roadmap to help me navigate this uncharted territory. My vision was to help myself and others who have had similar setbacks to realize their potential for growth and change. Oftentimes, we as individuals are so hard on ourselves, so critical. No one could ever live up to our own expectations. I started thinking about creating a balance for myself on all levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. I know that when these are in sync, life can be so much more enjoyable. So, how does one go about creating a vision for themselves? There are some practical ways to do this. A vision can be words, thoughts, phrases, images, pictures, ideas, dreams, whatever will give you good insight about what you want to accomplish. It is important to either write the ideas down or create visual images, which can be cut and pasted out on a poster board. I have used both methods successfully. The next step is to figure out how to make it a reality. It is important not to just think about making a change, but to actually take steps in the direction you want to go. You are the only one in control of how long something will take, and goals and deadlines that you create can be adjusted by you. This is not a timeline which works for everybody. There is not a timeline that works for everybody. You need to listen to your own sage advice and inner guide. This is a key piece to creating a life you love when starting over. And just a couple little insights. It's important to find your way. Be aware of simple things which keep you focused on your path. Keep your vision always as a compass to point you in the direction you want to go. The steps you are taking today will create the future you envision. Maybe on to the next slide, Karen. So these are some of the top takeaways on how to make changes in times of uncertainty. Sort of a recap of what I covered here. Create a vision of change you want to make. Begin to act in ways that bring you closer to your vision. This is something where you can, again, as I was saying for myself, being mindful of what you're committing to. Is what you're committing to going to get you closer to your vision of the change you want to make? Believe in yourself and your abilities and trust your instincts. And I just read that particular line from my book because I think it is important that we are also critical of ourselves and we put such high expectations that nobody could ever live up to them. So just take a step back and look at what is manageable for you and trust your own instincts to know what steps are going to be important to take, what is realistic given everything else you have on your plate right now. And don't let fear stop you from moving forward. You know, we're all trying to do the best that we can in this environment, and fears are going to crop up. But don't let fear stop you from making changes that are going to bring you joy and bring you to a better place and more happiness in your life. And chart your own course. Work on a timeline that is good for you. I mean, I know I've covered a lot here today. We say five steps and think it's not that bad, but really, maybe today isn't the day you want to start working on a change. And so when you do get to that point where you do want to make some changes in your life, I hope that something in this 5-step process will speak to you and help you sort of navigate those changes. And, you know, if everyone is not someone who likes to work with a vision or a vision board or vision statement, that's okay, because you can just write down the change. Because when you have something written down and have something to look at and to follow, you start acting in ways that are going to bring you closer to that change you want to make. Or even just how we're all navigating in this environment. We've had to make a lot of changes. Who knew we could be ordering our groceries online, or, Uber Eats, or, all these different ways that we can get food delivered to us in many different ways, or just enjoying our own homes more, and maybe working on areas in our home to create a nice environment for ourselves and our family. So be easy on yourself is all I have to say. And again, it's taking back your personal power and feeling like you do have some control over some of the changes that you want to make. So I thank you for bearing with me through this process, and we can just open it up for some conversation, some questions, some clarification, whatever people. I don't know if you've received any questions through the chat, Karen, or we can.
I do. I have a question, and I personally have a question as well. We lot of positive response to that comment regarding when you set a vision, when you have a vision in mind, it's okay if that vision changes over time. And certainly I've had that as well. You think January 1, you write this list of things you want to accomplish in the year, and you're going to do it. Halfway through the year, your whole life has changed, and so the things you had listed are no longer important, and you need to cut some stuff because now you're in a totally different place. And so one of our attendees asked, is it okay to do that month by month even? Is there a timeline that's too short or too long?
No, I think in this environment where we're dealing with so much uncertainty, I think that's a really good thing to do. Because again, it's not like it's carved in stone. And so I think that it's totally a good idea to be reviewing that more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
And just to sort of change your timeline as you are going through various things in your life as well. So I think it's something that can be done much more frequently. And again, set short-term goals. A 30-day goal right now to try and be in action or take one or two steps towards the change you want to make is really, really a reasonable goal. And maybe it's, it doesn't have to be a 3-month or a 6-month. In my case, when I was dealing with all these major life changes, I couldn't even think beyond 3 or 6 months, to be quite honest. I started to just set small goals. And then once you move in that direction and start accomplishing even small steps, it just is very empowering and, helps you embrace changes that you're dealing with.
Excellent.
Great
and a
question.
follow-up to that one is it okay that a change doesn't work out, or maybe you're not sure if you're actually going to be able to carry through with something you've visualized?
Definitely, because as I said, the vision is very fluid and it's going to be changing as we are changing. Just to give you a quick example, when I moved to Massachusetts, I thought I was going to have a job working remotely, and then the company had a downsizing, so that wasn't available to me. So I started to apply for various jobs similar to the types of jobs that I had. I thought, oh, well, I have great experience. It's not going to be difficult to find a job. And in reality, there were not those jobs in this area. So I had to rethink and reinvent what was going to be important to me. And I had to do like a total career pivot. And I started to really think about what things about my jobs did I really love, and just start putting a list together. So I think sometimes the direction we think we're headed in, circumstances just present themselves where we do have to change course. And I think that's why when we are creating these visions for ourselves, it is good to be looking at them every day, because things are changing that quickly for us. And some things are going to stay on the list, and other things are going to be, nope, not going to work out for me right now.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that the life change, the work change, and the pivot, because that was a question that I had. Is you go down one path and you get a job that you think you're going to love forever, and a career you're going to love forever, and you finally start doing it, and you realize that it's not for you. You hate it. There's parts of it that you hate doing, or, during this time, during the pandemic, perhaps you've discovered that your company doesn't like you as much as you thought they liked you. Maybe the environment is no longer friendly and you want to think about what other options are out there. How does a person go about considering where they should go from there? Is there an approach they should take?
Well, I think, in my particular case, I started looking at, well, what things about your job do you really enjoy? And what things don't you want to do anymore? Maybe something is really conflicting with your core values now. I think a lot of people are sort of reevaluating their life's, path at the moment and what they might want to do. And the other thing is start, I always used to call this a creative excavation. It's like digging up things that you always wanted to do, or maybe there was a job you always felt would be really exciting to do. So it's just starting to think about different areas that you enjoy, different jobs you felt you might like to do, and just start grouping some ideas together. And you'll start to see some themes emerging, or some things. Like, I was thinking about my job, and I really loved helping develop my staff and helping people grow in their jobs. I loved working in a team environment. I liked being a manager. I just started writing down things that I really liked. And then that led me to, go down the path of being a career and business coach, because I enjoy working with people. I like helping people bring an idea from conception to fruition. So I think you start grouping these things together and then coming up with some ideas. I've used LinkedIn very successfully in the past and have referred clients there as well, because there are a lot of jobs there. So you can start putting in some skill sets that you have that could be transferable with keywords, and different jobs will pop up. So it just is another way to explore what might be of interest to you at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And a final question for you, and certainly this comes up with women, around women a lot, is this concept of imposter syndrome, where maybe you have the dream job, but you keep telling yourself you're not the right person, or you don't fit, or you're not doing it right. And is there a way that we can create the vision that will help us, better kind of embody what we're hoping to do?
Well, I think when you're creating that vision for yourself, it's good to get into the details a little bit. If you have a dream job and you really love it, then I think being totally authentic is really important, because people are going to relate to that. And what do you love about your job? And even maybe highlighting some of the things that really are meaningful to you. Or maybe you think it's your dream job, but you're not really totally happy there, or you're not getting the recognition that you feel you deserve. I think Karen and I can relate to that, working in an organization where you kept trying to get to a director level, and there was this sort of a glass ceiling a little bit. So I think it's just kind of really looking a little bit deeper into what you are enjoying about your job, and trying to hone in on that, and then act accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And just some fun feedback for you, because I was checking the chat as we were talking about what would be people's goals, and I saw some really fun ones about moving near children so you can be near family. I thought was great. Walking once a day, getting that sunshine on your skin is so good for your emotional happiness. I mentioned that I'm trying to learn Spanish, but I love how each of them was totally achievable, and it was something related to making you happier if you succeeded. So I thought that was an interesting note to add.
No, thank you for sharing that. It is. I mean, it really is. It's all about us finding the path that is right for us. We're all individuals. And sometimes I think we start out in a certain direction, and just things are not going the way we thought they were going to go. So it's important to just be able to step back a little bit and reevaluate and, just kind of look at other possibilities. I think that's one thing I didn't really talk about, but I think it's important, is just to be aware of possibilities as they come up. Like even moving closer to your family. I mean, I did that. That was one of my major life changes. I wasn't even thinking about doing that until my son and daughter-in-law, we were having a conversation, and we're like, well, and then I thought, well, why not? So I started looking at how is this going to be doable for me? And again, I thought I was going to have a job, but then when I moved, the house was sold, the train was leaving the station and the job wasn't going to be there. So I had to sort of, create something again for myself. And I think that we always have options in life, and options and choices. And, sometimes we get stuck in a certain way or with a certain job that we feel we can't move out of, but it's good to sort of step back and then kind of broaden your perspective. And maybe this process can raise some questions for you about, what is really important to you at this point in your life.
Excellent. Well, I will tell you that we did our prep call for this webinar, and I've already got my journal where I write down the things that I hope I can do. Even if it's not on my to-do list vision right now, it'll end up on my vision sometime in the future. So it will act as my long-term list of things that I think would be achievable and fun. And I appreciate that you making that note. So now that Karen has that list, and perhaps some others that are on the call today will also have their own personal vision list. But, deep thanks from Women in Standards for you speaking today to us about something so important, which is setting, personal goals for ourselves. And clearly, it doesn't have to be a professional goal. It can be something that's just going to make you happier. And so I think that's such a great thing that you noted that. And a lot of the examples that our attendees have noted are related to just making them happier on a regular basis. And so our deepest thanks to you. And I'm going to switch it to the last slide so that you can let us know how we can get a copy of your book.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the feedback too. And let's face it, if we're happier as individuals in our own life, it translates to our work life. It's all connected. We're this big circle, so for our own professional development, one of the key things is to take care of ourselves too, and do some things that are going to help us be a more effective person in this world. So yes, my book is Navigating 5 Life Changes. It's available on my website. I'm also a career and business coach, and all information is on my website, which is listed here, creativecoachingmethods.com. And thank you so much for inviting me to speak to the group. And it's been great meeting all of you. And I wish you well with your changes. And if you've never done a vision board, I'm just going to give a quick tip. Take 20 minutes. Go through a bunch of magazines, pull out some things that just sort of speak to you. It could be a picture of a beautiful scenery, someone who is running, healthy food on the table, a couple words, anything that just kind of draws your attention. And then cut them all out and either paste them on a board, put them in a little notebook, just somewhere for you to see, because sometimes like pictures are worth 1,000 words, so they say. So I'll end on that note. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And thanks to all of our attendees today. We really appreciate you participating in the webinar. This is part of our professional development series. And as Mary Lou's mentioned, it will be posted to the website so you can watch the recording later. And we'll also include the information and link to Mary Lou's website so you can take a look as well. And our deepest thanks to those that attended today.